Data indicates that there could be hundreds of truck driving serial killers at large. Um, it's been years on top of years on top of years they've been talking about serial killers that are driving trucks. In my country, we also talk about the highway of tears with lots of indigenous women go missing on the highway of tears in regards picking up by truckers and kill them off. This been rampant, this been going on for a while. Lots of dead bodies, lots of dead women, missing women, nobody know where they are. And when you hide, they are linked to the truckers, allegedly, I would say. But the FBI is on this case. Data indicates that. So let's get into this one quick and fast. Be mindful how you hitchhike. Be mindful how you pick up hitchhikers. Be mindful how you're asking for a ride. Be mindful when your car breaks down on the side of the road, who you're asking for help. If your car is an older model, slap on CAA. Sometimes they said it's not good to stay in your car on the highway. Stay at the side of your car. Stay behind your car. Don't let anybody pick you up. Don't try to get help from strangers. Be mindful, especially as a woman, when you have a flat. CAA, CAA. And if your car is a new car, you always have roadside assistance on your car. Be mindful how you go out there and tread as a woman. Let's continue.
Murderous truck drivers prowling the nation's highways for victims have become familiar villains, really, in TV shows and movies.
In fact, the percentage of long-haul truckers who become murderers is small. But according to the FBI, there are likely hundreds of homicidal truck drivers on our roads who have never been caught.
Many of them have driven across Nevada and have left a bloody trail behind them. Tonight, Chief Investigator George Knapp takes a deeper dive into how victims are targeted. And some of this information, it is graphic.
86-year-old Reno resident Patrick Carnes was driving in tandem with a long-haul trucker along I-80 when he vanished forever back in 2011. His car was found in the same out-of-the-way field where 62-year-old Judith Casita's vehicle was found 5 years earlier. She, too, was never seen again. Nevada lawmen came to suspect that a serial killer trucker, possibly two, were picking off victims along I-80.
And this was actually where the vehicle was.
And I've seen some gruesome things in 25 years as an FBI agent, really gory crime scenes.
Former FBI Assistant Director Frank Figluzzi says the two missing Nevadans are not typical targets for serial killer truckers. Most of the known victims are younger women, either sex workers or hitchhikers. Figluzzi learned about the killers and their most likely victims by digging into a bureau program called the Highway Serial Killings Initiative, established in 2009, and learned even more by riding shotgun with truckers over thousands of miles, research that produced his best-selling book, Long Haul. By studying known murders, missing persons, and truckers themselves, the FBI estimates there could be 450 long-haul truckers who are serial killers, probably more. Many are sexual predators. Some just like to kill.
One indeed likes to control the outcome and loves the power and will prolong torture, rape, and other horrors. But the other one, George, the other kind of serial killer, simply wants to kill. He enjoys that power of life and death, and he kills quickly.
He's killing because he's lonely.
The specter of a mass murderer rumbling down the highway in a multi-ton traveling crime scene has been used in several TV shows and in movies, including the thriller Suspect Zero. But sometimes it spills out too close to home. Truck driver Chester Todd was suspected by the FBI of multiple rapes and murders of women, but he went on the run in 1996 and didn't surface until 2011 in Las Vegas, where he'd been living under an assumed name. Another serial killer truck driver, Wayne Allen Ford, had a severed breast in his pocket when he turned himself in to California police in 1998. He admitted to 4 murders. 3 of his victims had been dismembered. The body of one victim, 26-year-old Tina Gibbs of Las Vegas, was found in Northern California, not far from Ford's home. One of the most vile of the trucker killers is Robert Ben Rhodes, who built a torture chamber in his truck. Rhodes murdered 2 couples he picked up hitchhiking, one in Utah, one in Texas, and is suspected of dozens of other murder-torture sagas.
There's some of the most heinous crimes and criminals in the book, including Robert Ben Rhodes, who picked up a 14-year-old girl hitchhiking, hooked her up from fish hooks inside his torture chamber in his rig over the course of several weeks across many states, raped and tortured her, leaving her for dead in an abandoned farmhouse.
The most common and most vulnerable pool of victims are the so-called lot lizards, which is the crude name drivers use for the sex workers who ply their trade in the nation's truck stops. Figluzzi met and interviewed many of them for his book, including a few who survived their attacks, and knows that educating these women about the dangers is tough. Many of them have drug addictions and poor judgment, move around a lot, don't let family know where they are, so no one is likely to report them missing. Figluzzi also wrote his book to educate cops about the FBI initiative. The Nevada lawmen working on the Pat Carnes case had no idea there's an FBI database they could have accessed.
If I have one message to any law enforcement officer listening, it's get your unsolved cases, especially involving roadside killings, into the FBI's database.
The trucking industry has embraced the effort to find and weed out killer truckers and has installed tracking devices on most corporate-owned rigs. But Figluzzi notes some drivers have learned how to skirt those precautions, and he says there are hundreds of thousands of independent truckers who drive their own rigs and are not being monitored as they cruise along those long stretches of dark and empty highways. George Knapp, 8 News Now.
Disturbing stuff. We put more information on the highway serial.
Could you imagine? Could you imagine? So for the longest time, 850 murders are linked to a long-haul truck serial killer, right? Serial killer, guys, to be honest.
Trump sees got a glimpse of that harsh and lonely life firsthand. He spent a year riding more than 2,000 miles in a big rig to try to uncover more about the elusive long-haul trucker serial killings. Joining us now is Frank Figluzzi. He is a former FBI Assistant Director for Counterintelligence who spent 25 years as an FBI Special Agent. He's the best-selling author of Long Haul, Hunting the Highway Serial Killers. Frank, great to have you on the show. I am still reeling from that statistic. 850 murders believed committed by long-haul drivers?
Are you listening, people?
Not just one, but several serial killers?
Are you listening, people?
Indeed.
Okay.
The numbers are staggering, Elizabeth, and thanks for helping bring attention to.
So when every day people are talking about Jamaica this, this country that, you guys are not talking about the murders, 850 murders, unsolved murders that are linked to the truckers. Seriously, people. So do we need to even get into it and drag it in? Not only that, let me tell you where the FBI is focusing right now to find all of these murderers and these bodies. Let's get into it.
Right now, we have multiple serial killers operating in the United States, without a doubt.
Listen.
According to the FBI, those serial killers could be connected to dozens and dozens of unsolved murders.
Investigators are actively working to track them down by focusing in on a specific pool of suspects.
Jessica Schmidt explains what they're doing now to prevent another person from becoming a victim in this story from the Crime Vault. Oh, yeah. In 2004, after noticing a pattern of murdered women being dumped along interstates, the FBI launched its Highway Serial Killings Initiative. The map you see behind me shows where bodies and remains have been found along highways in 500 cases over the course of 30 years.
Where have they found the bodies and people? Look, I want you guys to look yourself. All of these red dots, that's where they find bodies. 850 bodies. No murder suspect, nothing linked to serial killer truckers, people. So I had to come and shoot this one. One I do. Blogging out here, lots of content out here. We get it out to the public, please and thanks. Let's continue.
20 years later, the FBI's work has led to several arrests and to hundreds of suspects. And today, investigators do believe most of those suspects are long-haul truckers. But they want to make it clear they're focusing in on a very small portion of them, as most truck drivers are innocent, hard workers, like a local man we talked to, Tim Reynolds. Tim Reynolds stepped into the trucking industry 35 years ago. Spending more than 2 decades on the road gave his passion a purpose.
Dad drove truck, grandparents drove truck, mom drives truck. Not only is it a family thing, it's a childhood dream.
Now a CDL training manager at Butler Tech, Reynolds is teaching the next generation how to safely steer a semi. While tough at times, it's a profession Reynolds describes as incredibly important.
If the trucking industry was to stop today, you would be completely out of everything in 3 days. Grocery stores would be empty shelves, gas stations without gas. So
we know the importance of truckers. We know when we see the truckers out there, we think their job is easy. We think their route is easy. Remember, lots of the truckers transport lots of food, lots of things that we need in our daily lives. But then you still cannot have forgotten that there's 850 murders out here that caused by some of these serial killers that drive trucks. Okay? We can't forget the good job that the truckers do. If you're a trucker, big up your nice, clean self. Thank you for delivering most of our foods, lots of our stuff. But at the end of the day, there's 850 bodies, murders of women, men, missing, murdered, and no perpetrator. And the FBI is zooming down now on the serial killers on the highway driving trucks. Remember, trucks go in and out different states, different city. So it's easy to dispose, it's easy to dismantle, it's easy to go missing when they grab you. Be mindful, be careful, people. Let's continue.
The constant moving, vital part of, this whole country.
Although the majority of the more than 3 million truckers in the U.S. are hardworking men and women dedicated to keeping the economy moving like Reynolds, the FBI believes there is a dark side to the business, thanks to a very small group of very bad people.
The number one profession for serial killers is long-haul trucker.
What did I say?
Federal investigators believe a handful of serial killers operating as long-haul truckers are likely responsible for 850 murders spread across multiple states and spanning decades. Former FBI Assistant Director.
So what did I say to you guys? You know why I find all of these stories? Because when I'm at work more time, I read and I listen to these kind of things, and these are important factors, daily life, what's happening now. At times, you like mix up. At times, you like people business and like to watch. At times, sometimes people carrying on with themselves and crushing out. But in a real life situation like this, where there's 850 bodies murdered, nobody know who's doing it, and it's linked to the truckers, we have to come and shout, "Murderer, blood is on your shoulder."
Frank Figluzzi says the good news is many of those cases are now solved.
There are 25 long-haul truckers already in prison for multiple murders. There have been cases in the greater Cincinnati and the larger Ohio area.
John Fottenberry was working as a long-haul trucker when he murdered a Milford man in 1991. He was convicted and executed after investigators discovered he'd gone on a cross-country killing spree. But according to the FBI, there are still around 200 cases considered open and active.
Right now.
So this is what I'm talking about. But the jail cell and the prison usually made for us. And when you go look, majority of us is there incarcerated. But nobody's not talking about how much murder some of these people that don't look like us committed and commit. And then they look at us like we're the savage one, we're always the aggressor, we're the one who's always killing, shooting. But look what they're out here doing, killing multiple people at once. Anyways, guys, I just had to shout that out. So if you're interested in this story, do your research, go and look for the story. Peace and love.